Hi guys, it's Nancy. Welcome to my channel, and I'm going to show you guys some of the new products that are newly released from Catherine Pooler Designs for April 2022. Alright, so I'm going to start with this stamp set. It's got some really wonderful sentiments. It is called the Notable and Quotable Sentiments, and it says, "We were together, I forget the rest." That's from Walt Whitman. "There is nothing in this world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor," from Charles Dickens. "The world breaks everyone, and afterward many are strong at the broken places," Ernest Hemingway. "In case you ever foolishly forgot, I am never not thinking of you," Virginia Woolf. "To live is the rarest thing in the moment. Most people exist, that is all," Oscar Wilde. "Forever is composed of nows," Emily Dickinson. "Courage, dear heart," C.S. Lewis. "Completely and perfectly, incandescently happy," Jane Austen. And "Be silly, be honest, be kind," from Ralph Waldo Emerson. There are also these 4 floral images, and you can purchase the dies which will cut out those floral images if you would like to get those. So that is the Notable and Quotable Sentiments, and you can purchase the Notable and Quotable dies separately. We have the Ex Libris sentiments, dies. And let me show these to you. Now, I have not cut mine apart yet, but they're kind of like book labels. And you can cut the center out. I haven't done that yet, so you'll have an oval. And then you have these dotted edgings here for this one. And this one has a scalloped edging with the rectangle there as well. So those are really handy for sentiments. Okay, we have a new background stamp. I love this background. It's kind of a Baroque look. It is called Filigree Background Stamp. And wait till you guys see this stamped out. It is beautiful. And I'm going to grab some paper here. We have some new inks. We have terracotta, ginger, apricot, and wintergreen. So let's swatch these out so you guys can see what these look like. And I just grabbed a piece of the Catherine Pooler cardstock here. And we're going to start with terracotta. That is a nice burnt orange, leaning towards a red with that one. Ginger, now that's a true burnt orange. Terracotta is more like a brick, I would say, comparing those two together. Apricot is going to give you a lighter tone. Beautiful. And wintergreen. Beautiful. And I'm sure there will be updates to the swatch, to the color circle, and comparing them to some other colors that are already in the line. So again, terracotta, nice deep brick red. Ginger is a really dark burnt orange. Apricot is apricot, kind of a peachy color apricot. And wintergreen, nice light green. And these are all part of the Spa collection, so you can see how dark they are. Have a little bit of a gray undertone to them. Okay, so those are the new colors. So let's make a card today. I'm going to take some of these out of the way here. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a background, and we're going to do some heat embossing as well. But let's start with the background. So have another piece of the Catherine Pooler premium cardstock. This is a 100-pound cardstock. It comes to you in 8.5 by 11 sheets, and then you cut it down. It's 100 pounds. It is super smooth. I do love this cardstock. And we're going to use the new filigree background. And I think we'll use a new color. So we're going to put this down, and I'm just sticking this down to my glass mat. And I'm going to use the new terracotta. Actually, we're going to bring in the ginger and the terracotta. So I'm going to start with the ginger on the top. And then I'm going to put the terracotta at the bottom. So we kind of have this, almost like this ombre effect. And I'm going to put my cardstock down. That. Grab a piece of junk mail. Use that to smooth it over. And we have this beautiful background. And there you can see up close how it goes from that orange to that dark red. Beautiful colors. Love that. Very regal, very elegant looking. I'm going to clean this off quick. All right, now for my sentiment piece, we're going to use the Libris dies. And I think because I used the circle one on my sample card, and I'll show you guys that in a second, I'm going to use this square one. And I'm going to use a heavy duty cardstock. So I don't want the regular cardstock. I'm going to grab heavier spare piece of cardstock. Here we go, out of my stash. And you'll see why in a second. And I'm going to die cut this. Run that through my die cutting machine. And we're going to do some heat embossing. Let me poke out all of these little pieces here. And keep that centerpiece because we're going to stamp our sentiment on there. Look at how easily they just fall right out of that. Okay, that was very simple and easy to do. All right, so to do the heat embossing, I want this to have kind of a faux metal look, right? So in order to do that, we're going to grab some Wow embossing ink here. And I'm going to ink up the whole front of this. And I'm doing it on my glass mat because it'll be very easy to clean up then. Okay. And I'm going to grab my tweezers here and just grab one side. Bring this over. And I'm going to use the Decadent Ruby embossing powder. Now this has a dark red undertone, but it's chunky gold. And that's what we want. So that red undertone will look really good with that background. And the chunky gold is going to give us this metallic look. And you might have to do this heat embossing twice just to give it more depth. But let's see what we get here. I'm going to let my heat gun heat up for a second. And I'm going to give that a second because I don't think it's hot enough to go for a second. So we're going to let that cool for just a second. We're going to ink it up again. This time I'm going to have my tweezers grab the other side. So we want that nice and covered and sticky. And this embossing powder, because it's already thick, it makes it pretty easy to do. And we're going to heat it again. All right, now before I get to that side, I'm going to switch my tweezers to the other side here. This side should be cool. And you want to be careful because, again, it's extra chunky. All right, so this way, this side is available because I am going to probably have to go in and dip that side again to make sure I have full coverage. Actually, that looks pretty good. So you can see, because it's that chunky gold embossing powder, it has that aged patina look with that decadent ruby in there. So it really does look like a frame. Okay, so that looks good. We're going to put that aside. Let that cool down. Okay, and again, that's called Decadent Ruby. All right, now I'm going to wipe my glass mat off. Okay, so the next part of this is that centerpiece. I'm going to stamp my sentiment on that. So I think for that size, okay, you could use either one of those two. We Were Together, I Forget the Rest, or Be Silly, Be Honest, Be Kind. I think that's the one I'm going to use. And since this is the first time I'm using this stamp, now I like to rub it a little bit, make sure I get that, and then I'm going to grab that scrap paper again, and I'm going to stamp this with that terracotta ink. Oh, that looks perfect. Okay, so now we can stamp it on our center here. Center that, give that a second to transfer. Perfect. And now it's just a matter of assembling the card. So I'm going to use a top folding card base. I have here. And I'm going to cut my background down a little bit to 5 1/4 by 4. That way there's a little bit of white edging. Okay, and now we're going to bring our frame in. Now, there's a couple things you can do. We can glue this directly on here, but I like the way that it looks popped up, so I'm going to grab some foam tape. And the foam tape is going to serve 2 purposes. 1, it's going to pop it up, but 2, it's going to help the sentiment. We're going to glue that sentiment back in there by using the tape. So by putting the tape on the edges there, it pops it up, but it also holds that center sentiment in with the frame. Okay. Okay, got all of those off, and now I'm going to kind of center it where you can see that ombre changing over. I'll show you guys here so you can see it's starting to change over right in here. Okay, and then the last thing you can do is if you wanted to put brads, you would put brads on there. If you don't have brads, because I know a lot of people are like, what are brads? They're, you know, we use those way back in the day in our scrapbooking days. You can use some Nouveau crystal drops. So I'm going to show you on this card. And I always like to kind of practice that on a little bit of scrap paper. There we go. And we're going to fill in this hole. Now you could put a little piece of tape or something behind there. If you do a thin coat, it will dry, and then you can go back in and add it. So I know it looks a little messy now, but that's okay. When I go back in, I'm just doing the first coat. I'll let that dry. It doesn't take very long to dry. That's kind of my little base. You could put a little piece of tape behind there if you wanted, but once it dries, I'll go back in and add the second coat, and it'll become a bead. So we're just going to let that as our first coat. Let me show you my sample card. And on the sample card, I did the same thing, but I used the Dress Blues ink. Dress Blues, I can't remember the other color. And I used the Egyptian turquoise on the frame. So if you guys can see that there. Forever is composed of now. And this one, I did use little brads. So you can see the brads are poking through there. So if you don't have brads, this is another option. Once this dries, I'll have my base. because if I just keep pushing it through, it'll leak through the bottom. So we just created a little base. I probably should have put a little piece of tape behind there. And then once that's done, I'll go back in with a second coat of the Nuvo drops. But there you can see how easy and elegant they look with their faux metallic frames, beautiful filigree background, and those wonderful sentiments. So again, you can get these items over at Catherine Pooler. If you have any questions, post them down below. I'll put the links and all the information for you guys down in the description. If you have any questions, you can put those down in the comments. And if you haven't already, please consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for new content. And I'll have some more videos showing this new release for you. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.